You people do understand how weird it is for this to exist on my channel? I talk about highbrow politics. I talk about the European Union and the future of nations. And after I put all those videos, then I go like, here's what happened in the latest episode of Anime Tits! But I do it for you guys, because you want me to talk about Goblin Slayer. So, alright, let's talk about the anime tits. Now, this is something that you don't see that often in Western entertainment. Like, if you want to show a boobie in a comic book or in some TV show, that woman better have breast cancer and she needs to be examined by a doctor. Like, there always needs to be some philosophical reason over why you want to show tits to the public. This is the Western mentality. In Japan, that's not it. Like, they show tits every goddamn time. It's called fan service, okay? People like to watch them, so the artist is like, well, I can draw anything I want. What do people want me to draw? Tits and violence. I'll give them the fucking tits. And that's it. And that's what happens in Japan. And the Western critics, they're livid. They're livid. Oh my god, the fan service. Does it really need to be there? No, but you know what? It doesn't need not to be there either. So if they want to put tits, let them put tits. Like, what is the problem? But anyway, right, so this is what happens at the beginning of the episodes. It's a little bit of fan service. And it shows that tits can be funny. Okay, in anime, sometimes they even have sound effects. I'm not even kidding. When they bounce, they go boing, boing. It is like a whole different art of giving tits personalities. And in the beginning, it shows 2D, embarrassing, making the priestess feel uncomfortable with her lush, voluptuous body. Okay, the princess feels a little bit of envy, a little bit of jealousy, because she doesn't have what it takes in order to compare with 2B's rack. Now, also, 2B poisons the mind of the little priestess like a viper. She whispers into her ear, saying that at one point the Goblin Slayer is going to leave her. And this seems to leave a mark, this seems to leave a scar that will linger throughout the episode, and is probably going to see a little bit more development in episodes to come. Now, the Goblin Slayer and the elf are also having a fun time going towards the inn of this new town, and the people there just throw casual racism towards the elf. A little bit of microaggressions. Honestly, this guy, he needs to give her a micro apology before the micro police is going to put him in a micro prison. And the elf is a little bit like meh about it. You know, I can't understand how difficult must it be to be in her shoes. Can you imagine that? You walk into a bar and people go like, oh, what elf? I never seen one of those before. Oh, that's kind of good looking. Just imagine how difficult it must be to be in her position. But anyway, and again, if this was like a Western story, you would have immediately some character come up and lecture these people. It's like, oh, it's not nice what you're doing. Stop what you're doing. Like Wonder Woman would probably pop up and she would give like a quirky remark, because you can't let racism go unchallenged in Western comic books and TV shows. But here it's like, no, this is like, no one cares. They seek refuge from the casual racism at the notice board. And the Goblin Slayer points out that despite the fact that the city has a giant sewage system, there are no quests involved in killing giant rats. And he figures out that this might be because the goblin population is far larger than initially expected. So realizing that his job is far from over, the next day he purchases a canary and goes back into the sewers. And this is, again, nice character development, because initially I thought that the Goblin Slayer is some sort of Gary Sue, but he isn't, right? He's not expert in everything. And he actually says that there is a lot of knowledge in this world that he doesn't have, and he had to learn about the trick with the canary being able to smell poisonous gas from some miners. And this is a good way of making the character humble, of toning down the character. It's like, yeah, he is really good in fighting, he's really good at slaying goblins, he's really smart when it comes to figuring things out related to goblins, but anywhere else he's not good at all. Like, he's not good in social interactions, he is completely clueless when it comes of interacting with the ladies, he doesn't know about anything else outside his trade. And this is really good story writing. This is a believable character. Someone who focuses his life non-stop on a single goal is going to be an expert in that field, but he is going to be lacking in any other field. Now, eventually, they fall for a trap where it's very similar to the Mines of Moria from Lord of the Rings. They're into a room and they're hearing the goblins are coming from outside, except that this time they try to gas them. The goblins try to gas the main characters, and the Kanari is screaming, right? Kanari gets agitated, but luckily this is Japan, and the Goblin Slayer manages to transform his party members into ninjas. And they survive the gas with the help of the dwarf, who manages to plug the holes through which the goblins push gas through. And they survive the encounter. And as they move on to phase 2. Now, phase 2 includes a goblin champion. The first time we managed to see one of them. And apparently this would be the equivalent of a silver hero. But it's a monster. And the battle scene is really great. Like, I really like the anime, how they made some of the combat scene. I mean, just look at this shit. I mean, you gotta understand, there was an army of Japanese slaves being whipped by their corporate masters to work for a minimum wage and slave over a hot piece of paper to bring you that visual wargasm. You need to show some respect, Westerners. You need to appreciate the blood and effort that was put into those animations. And by the way, this is why I hate the cultural critics of the West that are complaining about those tits. Do you know how hard it is to draw tits, let alone make them bounce? And every single time, like, some Japanese guy is slaving over his little hot piece of paper in order to make that happen. And here you have, like, some blue-haired person in the West going, like, oh, I don't like this. This is not a fuck off. Anyway, moving back to the actual analysis. So, as the fight progresses, it seems that the Goblin Slayer gets completely BTFO'd by the Goblin Champion. And the entire party seems to get ruffle stomped as well. We got the elf almost getting the Swedish knuckle. The priestess gets a love bite. By the way, apparently that love bite was a little bit more gruesome in the manga, people told me in the comment section. Like, her entire shoulder was being bitten off. Now here's what I don't get, right? Now, if I was in that world, if I was an adventurer within the Goblin Slayer universe, I would be like, who the fuck rated the goblins? Who is responsible for this shit? Like, are these supposed to be low-level monsters? You got a team of 4 silver ranked and a priestess of obsidian rank adventurers. And they're fully rested, fully prepared, and they're taking off against one goblin champion and a couple of goblins, and they're getting BTFO'd so hard. Like, how in the... Who made this shit? Who made the list saying that goblins are weak monsters? Who? Now, there are 2 explanations for it, by the way. One, imagine how the other monsters are like, and then it's like, gee, hot damn. Or 2, the person making the list was a moron. And I think I was going to go with 2. I mean, of course, you know, you might say, well, the individual goblin is quite weak. Well, it's like someone making a list of insects and looking at an individual ant and saying, you know, this insect is so weak, it can barely survive on itself. Look, I put the ant here and it's got abundance of food and it just dies off. It's a very weak insect. It's definitely not fit for life. But then you're like completely taking out the whole point that the ant is supposed to live in a colony. And you shouldn't take the insect individually. Like, as a whole, ants are kind of top of the food chain when it comes to the insect animal world. Like, if you put a spider into an ant nest, it's going to die. So, my whole point is the same thing with what happened in this universe. Like, yeah, sure, an individual goblin is weak. But from what I see fucking here, like, they're quite competent and... adventurers should be worried about this shit. Like, you should bump them up. Like, maybe put a disclaimer over there, like a little asterisk, do not engage on their territory, very dangerous when working in groups, you know, like that kind of stuff. Like, you would think someone would decide to update the list, just bump the goblins a little bit higher off the food chain, if possible. But anyway, right, so the fight continues, and as it seems that everything is lost, and the priestess reverts back to her previous self by soiling herself. Yeah, she peed herself yet again. Kind of showing that she still has like mental trauma from the first encounter, quite understandably, by the way. It seems that the Goblin Slayer goes berserk. Like, this episode, I would call it Angry Man Refused to Die. You know, like, if CNN was in that universe, that's probably how the headlines would be. And then he decides to go all Agent 47 on the Goblin Champion. It manages to strangulate him using human hair. Now, I don't think human hair is supposed to work that way, unless maybe it was like elvish hair or something. But regardless, he manages to do it, kills the Goblin Champion, rest of the goblins run away, and combat over. Overall, it was a great episode. Like, this is the darkness that I spoke about in the beginning that I wanted to see more of. Some people that I noticed in the comment section didn't like this episode. Fuck you, I think this episode was great. I got tits, I got violence, I got happy, I want more. Okay, that's literally all I want. I'm very easy to please. And with that said, looking forward to seeing the next episode, and you guys will see the next review probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Depends also on what other videos I have to make on my main channel, because obviously there are more important things going around in politics that I need to talk about, so this is something that I do in my free time, because I love you guys. Love you guys, okay? And also thank you for the super chats. See, I said this now, but this is a pre-recording. I would feel really bad if I didn't get any. But you know what? Doesn't matter. I know you wanted to do it. You wanted to give me a super chat. The thought mattered. Right. See you all on the live stream later tonight.